No, we're glad to help you. Somebody okay?
Hijack your Wi-Fi signal. Oh, that?
Okay.
No, don't get me wrong. I did.
Troy's
I
going
did hack a few of your files.
Troy's on vacation.
So
But Kim was
talk about what you did and how you're going to prevent you from talking about them. What name do you?
Troy's always, I guess I just
But I would like to ask. No, I can ask the governor. Say, you decided to hold a press conference in the sunniest and warmest part of the complex.
got back from vacation in Vegas.
How come?
He's done.
I was like,
All right.
yeah.
I was about to say, well, I'll be right back. I have questions for my own life. I like to think so. Not always, but
I don't usually get well, I think part of it is that he wants to.
I mean, all the hydraulics.
This is like
If not longer. Can we say it was the worst ever in the history of creation?
there's also I mean I get that like I mean that's kind of a good minute of really usually that you can yeah, but that's what I was saying. There's no way that it's higher than what she makes now.
You know what it is?
I don't know. I haven't.
So I have fewer ringers. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you getting chubby is not working. Yeah, because you're not getting. You're not that, no, you know what? I think you're right. We won't tell everybody that you just barely got there in time. You didn't hear me.
Because you know I was yeah. I mean, that really was. How's it feel to have recording assistance? Yeah, it's pretty good.
Good afternoon. We'll get started in just a minute. Governor Cox will speak with us, as well as Deputy Director Candace Hassenjäger and Commissioner Craig Butters.
Sorry, fine. Anybody else want a microphone? We're good. All right. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you here today. As we talk once again, we've had many press conferences around drought. We're slowing down on our press conferences about the pandemic, and we're headed right into another disaster. It's kind of been that kind of year and a half for the state of Utah. But we so appreciate you being here today. We, as all of you know, we are experiencing the worst drought in decades here in the state since at least 1956, if not the worst in our state's recorded history. As I've said before, 100% of the state of Utah is in drought. Most of the state is in exceptional drought, and that is true of much of the West, and this is something that we're very concerned about. So we'll hear in just a minute from Commissioner Butters and Deputy Director Hassenjäger, who's with us as well. These conditions are adversely and significantly impacting agribusiness and livestock production, wildlife and natural habitats, and waterways throughout the state. Extremely dry conditions have also contributed to an increased threat of wildfire across the state, and I'll share more about that in just a minute. Of course, our snowpack this year was dismal and hasn't refilled our streams and reservoirs as we would normally expect, and with less water entering our lakes and reservoirs, we absolutely need everyone in this state, regardless of where you live or what you do, to conserve water. So our purpose here today is multifaceted, but one of those is to make yellow lawns great again. And we want to let people know that it's going to be okay to have a yellow lawn this year. We want all of our friends, HOAs and cities and towns to know that this is one of those years where it's going to be okay. Your lawn will be okay if it's yellower this year. As you know, I've already issued 2 executive orders declaring a statewide drought emergency. Today I will issue a third. As of today, I'm ordering all state facilities to reduce watering landscapes to 2 days per week in northern Utah and 3 days in southern Utah. We want to be sure to protect trees and plants, but lawns are very resilient, and they will go into a hibernation phase and do not need to be watered as often as you think. I'm also asking municipalities, businesses, and property owners to follow suit. Outdoor watering accounts for approximately 60% of residential use, and a single lawn watering for the average quarter-acre lot in Utah uses 3,000 gallons of water. So eliminating even one watering can help significantly with our conservation efforts. We're, of course, also the fastest growing state in the nation and one of the driest. Drought or not, we need to be serious about decreasing our water use. I've asked all Utahns to conserve water by reducing outdoor water use, avoiding long showers, and fixing leaks. Water restrictions are determined and enforced at the local level, which allows for customization to the area's water supplies. And as you will note, and many of you have reported on, many of our local municipalities are issuing additional water restrictions and increasing enforcement efforts. We encourage that across all of our municipalities. Because of smart water planning, there is some good news. Our water storage facilities like reservoirs have made it possible that municipal water shortages are unlikely this year. In other words, existing storage can adequately supply drinking water, but we don't know how long the drought will last, so we all need to reduce our use. Now, I'm really grateful for the legislature, who has set aside $280 million for water projects, including $100 million for conservation. And our teams and the legislative teams have been meeting together, discussing how we will be spending that money. There will be more announcements to come, but I can tell you there will be a heavy emphasis on metering of secondary water, something that we haven't done much of here in the state of Utah, and so you will see an increased emphasis in using that funds to increase metering. We have short-term projects that we're talking about today as far as what we need to do right now to cut back on our use, but we need to really start focusing, and we will have more announcements in the coming weeks about long-term projects. Projects that include metering of secondary water, projects that include eliminating existing landscapes and moving to xeriscaping, as well as new construction, making sure we have less park strips, less unnecessary grass in areas that don't need it. And again, we're in the planning phase on those, but we will have more announcements to come as we work with the legislature on those issues. Now, the other thing I want to mention, once again, is because of the dry conditions and the potential for deadly fires, the state forester and the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands has issued an order banning fireworks on all state and unincorporated private lands. This order is effective today. The same goes for SITLA lands. No fireworks will be allowed on SITLA lands. So again, that is any SITLA lands, any state lands, and any unincorporated private lands. There is a ban on fireworks. And I'm sure there will be questions about fireworks within municipalities. There have been no decisions made on that right now. Of course, local municipalities have the ability to make those decisions, but we will be working with the legislature as we get closer to fireworks season, as we get closer to July, to make determinations on fireworks within municipalities. Regardless, it's a bad year for fireworks. It's a bad year for anything related to fires. We had new fire starts over the weekend. We have a new fire today in Summit County. We're seeing that those fires are explosive right now, as every day is hot, dry, and windy. Those red flag conditions are the worst possible conditions for wildfire. There is a little bit of good news, and that is that because we haven't had any water this year, there isn't much grass in the low elevations, which means that fire danger in low elevations, it's still extremely high, but there's less fuel for those fires to burn. However, the mid elevations and high elevations, and especially in those high elevations, which normally we don't have as much fire danger because it's cooler, it's greener, the snowpack lasts longer, they are at risk this year. And so we have fire danger across all elevations and across every single piece of the state right now. And we encourage people to take those extra precautions and take them seriously. And as we mentioned, in addition to all of these measures, this last weekend I asked Utahns of faith to join me in praying for rain, and I will encourage that to continue for people here in our state. While state government can cut back on its water use, and we can urge the same from local governments, private entities, and residents, we can't control the elements. And so again, I would encourage all people of faith, whatever you believe or don't believe, to join in helping us urge the universe, God, whatever you believe in, to help us turn the tide of this weather and these elements. Now with that, I'm happy to turn the mic over to Deputy Director Hassenjaeger.
Thank you, Governor Cox. Utah's drought conditions are serious and worse than most of us have seen in a lifetime. While we have experienced droughts in the past, the intensity and the fact that we haven't had any relief has created this extreme situation. 2020 was the driest year on record and one of the hottest. This led to record dry soils. Our snowpack was dismal, topping out at 81% and peaking 10 days earlier than normal. The record dry soils soaked up what little runoff we received. As a result, most of our streams are flowing at less than 50% of their normal flows. A dry April was followed by an even drier May, with less than a half an inch of precipitation accumulated in valley locations. All of this means that less water is entering our reservoirs. As of June 1st, statewide reservoir levels are 15% lower than this time last year. Some reservoirs are doing okay, and that's because of good planning, and others are projected to run dry this season. With 100% of the state in drought, and of that, 90% is categorized by the U.S. Drought Monitor as extreme drought. And as the governor mentioned, we are preparing for exceptionally poor to potentially worst on record water supply conditions this summer. Utah is in extreme drought. Extreme conservation measures are needed by all of us. We don't know how long this drought will last. That's out of our control. But what's in our control is how we respond and what we do as individuals, families, businesses, institutions, and industries to conserve water wherever we can. Water saved today means we will have more tomorrow. There are simple things that we can all do to reduce our water use. Water less. Your lawns, our lawns, will survive with 2 waterings per week in northern Utah and 3 in southern. It's okay if the grass browns. So we are in a mode of surviving, not thriving. Prioritize your watering. Water trees, shrubs, perennials, and annuals before your grass. Grass is tough. It'll enter a phase of dormancy and will rebound when the conditions improve. Raise your mower to 3 to 4 inches. Taller grass means deeper roots. Check with your local water providers for restrictions in your area, and visit slowtheflow.org for additional drought response tips. Thank you. And now Commissioner Butters will come up.
Thank you, Candace. Excuse me. Thank you, Governor Cox. Of course, our farmers and ranchers are going to be significantly impacted by the severe drought this year. This is a situation that has been months in the development, if not years. We are in a cycle of drought. Right now, we're experiencing loss of rangeland and our ability to graze our cattle and livestock. We also do not have enough water to raise the feed for the livestock that we do have. We don't have enough water for our crops, which include our fruits and vegetable crops that we so desperately need and enjoy purchasing from our farmers markets. So, as has been stated by the governor, the grasses in our lower levels of forage and forest areas are not very abundant right now. Up in the higher levels they will be, but our farmers and ranchers are already looking for opportunities to take their cattle other places to find grazing land. They're already looking for feed, alfalfa and grass hay that they can use to get them through this situation, but it's very rare and not very abundant, not available very much. So all of these things can impact the supplies of our food that we have in our grocery stores and all of our supplies. And of course, wildfires impact our rangelands, and it's going to be very important for us to be wise in the things that we do on our public lands and in our own backyards this summer. Farmers and ranchers work very hard each year to conserve water. This is not something new, and it's not something they only do during droughts. They're always working to make improvements to irrigation systems to conserve water. We have several great programs here in the state that fund those improvements. And a lot of those are funding sources that must be matched by dollars from the individual producers, and our producers are spending millions of dollars on their lands to conserve water. Planting crops that are more drought resistant is also another thing that our farmers and ranchers are doing, and also using grazing techniques to help preserve the land and water. We are encouraging farmers and ranchers to contact their local farm service agency office if they need resources to acquire feed and funding for other projects that might help to get them through this drought. So I would just like to say thank you for your support to the citizens of this state in recognizing that agriculture is important. The agricultural producers here in our state put food on our tables. So thank you for your support for agriculture.
Just in case you have any questions. Candace, do you want to join us? Okay, we have time for a few questions. If you have any for the Deputy Director or the Commissioner, or me. Ben.
Governor, at this point, are you considering any further executive orders getting just even more restrictive? Just shutting everything off?
Yeah, well, we have to be very careful with those executive powers. As was mentioned, water is an interesting thing, especially in the state of Utah. Outside of the West, they do it a little differently, but here in the West, we have local water districts, and we have representation from many of our water districts that are here. And every water district is really unique. Unique in a couple ways. Unique in the amount of water that they have available, the amount of storage that they have available, and unique in the conditions where they live. Again, a great example of that is southern Utah is very different than northern Utah, just in our climate and weather patterns. And so those decisions have always been made at the local level, and they're very conservative when it comes to making those decisions. I don't mean conservative in a political sense. I mean conservative in a conservation sense. And they know how much water they have and how much can be used, and they're very good at rationing that out. And so that's why you're seeing those restrictions be put into place. Again, much more serious than the restrictions that I'm mentioning now, depending on where you live. Where I live, we have been in severe restrictions now since the beginning of May. We started out there, so very different, and that's the better way to do it. Now we are looking at some broader restrictions, for example, on fireworks and other issues that will be part of going forward. We are also looking, as I mentioned, at long-term changes on a statewide level, using statewide resources to help make those and putting into place programs that incentivize different landscaping and water habits as we move forward. So you are going to see more from the state in lots of different ways. When it comes to using executive authority, we'll work very closely with the legislature. Again, I can only use that type of executive authority for a limited amount of time, and so we have to have legislative buy-in. This is things we've learned through the pandemic.
So is it possible we could realistically see a fireworks ban? Because you have 243 cities, and that's like 243 different.
Yeah, I think it is possible. I really do. Again, we'll be having those conversations with the legislature. If things continue as they are right now, I would be supportive of a statewide fireworks ban. And look, there could be some exceptions to that. Let me give you an example. There are some municipalities that have already decided that they're going to allow people to do fireworks, but only on the 4th of July or the 24th of July, and only in their city parks where the fire department is present. So allowing families to come together, light off their fireworks, have fun right there at a place where we have controlled conditions. And so I could see those types of exceptions being in place, but as we get closer, and people need to know that fireworks are not legal right now. We have a short window of fireworks a couple days before the 4th of July, and the same with the 24th. And so we're not in a situation where we have to make any decisions on fireworks because they are banned right now. But I do believe if these conditions continue, that that a statewide fireworks ban is very possible.
Governor, you say plans are in the works for zero-scaping. Do you know how much water we could be saving if we got rid of unnecessary grass? And what does this look like long-term?
Yeah, so I don't have I don't have those numbers in front of me right now. The Department of Natural Resources is working right now. We've been actually working on this for a long time on a proposal that we'll take to the legislature on xeriscaping and unnecessary grasses. I could, envision a situation where we're working with, especially with businesses and others, where you see it all the time. That I don't know that a Burger King needs grass in between sidewalks, right? That just has never made sense in these dry climates. And so ways to prevent those types of unnecessary landscaping going in the future, as well as incentivizing businesses and others to remove those going forward. So those are the types of plans we'll be working on. And again, even if we were in a wet year, that's good policy for a dry western state that is also the fastest growing state. Yeah. Yeah, so we do see this all the time, right? Irresponsible watering. There's a lot of water shaming that goes on, and that's a good thing. So what I would say, what I'm asking, and by the way, we do that sometimes too, right? The state has lots of properties. We have 24,000 employees across the state, and I'll get a text or somebody will tweet at me that they drove by one of our state properties and there's a sprinkler that's broken off and it's spraying off, and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So what we are demanding all of our facilities to do is to go in and review what they have in place right now, who's responsible for watering, to check those watering patterns regularly, check to see if there are any broken sprinklers. Again, it's better to water in the early mornings and later at night. And when you do that, sometimes you don't realize if a sprinkler's broken, because by the time you get to work, the sprinklers are off. And so that's a problem as well. But that's what we need everyone to do. We need everyone to take this very seriously, to go and review their process, understand who's in charge of watering. Look at every sprinkler, find out when they're watering, how many days per week, and when during the day. Again, watering in the early morning hours or late evening hours. The best time to water, just as most farmers know, is at dew point. 4 o'clock in the morning is really a great time. I know some municipalities don't allow that, but that's when you get the biggest bang for your buck with your water. But all of those things are really, really important to do right now. And this is where we have to have enforcement. And all of that enforcement is done at the local level. We've seen some of our municipalities, and I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe it was Weber County that's going to be tagging houses. Weber Basin. Yep. Thank you. Weber Basin, Tage Flint's here. They're going to be very serious about this, and 3 strikes and you're out. You lose your secondary water for the rest of the year. That's the type of enforcement we need to have, so people will know we're serious. Word travels when your neighbor finds out that they might have their secondary water shut off. We're all going to be a lot more careful about it. So our order covers all state entities, but we will be working with local school boards as well to make sure that they're doing the same. Okay. Any questions for these fine people back here?
Deputy Director Hassan Yeager, at the current rate of forecast, when do we run out if we don't make changes?
Yeah, that's a little difficult because everywhere is different and everyone's water supply is in a different situation. So, and that's one of the reasons why it's most important that these water restrictions are made at the local level right now. So I would definitely check with your local water provider on their water supply and their water supply conditions. 'Cause it just really depends.
And I got a lot of people ask this. What if they want to snitch? What if they want to complain? Who do they
Go-
call?
We have a great website, utah.gov/fame or shame, where you can go and enter. Utah water shaming is a Utah pastime, and so you can go do that there. And we're also love when you want to celebrate good actions as well, so you can do that there.
And Ben, I would just add to that, what Candace said about the local level is so important. I would encourage everyone to get involved and get to know their local secondary water provider. And so when you talk about running out, we'll probably have 3 reservoirs that will run dry this year. That most of them along the Sevier River. I think Yuba and Kusharam and what's the other one I'm missing? Paiute. Yeah, Otter Creek. Yeah. And my water supply, Fairview Lakes, runs dry every year. The question is when it runs dry. Usually it's not till September, but it looks like by July we'll be out of water completely, and that goes to the farmers, and that's our yard and gardens and all of those things. So definitely find out where you are locally. We have some that are 20% of where they should be right now, and that's very challenging.
One last question.
And don't feel obligated. Okay, sounds like that's it.
Thank you, Governor.
Candace, I have a request for your website again, the shaming website. What is that?
Water.utah.gov/fame or shame.
You got it?
All right, thank you
Water.utah.gov/fame or shame.
Fame
Or
or
shame.
shame. Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks,
for coming.
guys.
Thank you.
Seems like a website that would judge journalists. Are they famous or are they shamed?
I appreciate that. It works pretty well. All of these reporters handling their water usage on their property.